Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here, and welcome back to a new YouTube video on the channel. And today, guys, I'm going to be continuing my AFL 2024 round previews and round reviews. Of course, we start off with a round review and then preview the next round in a couple of minutes. Starting off with a Thursday night game, and it was St Kilda and Collingwood at the MCG. The Saints won by 15 points. It was a pretty good game, and Collingwood did hang around for most of it, but the Saints in the end showing they're the better of the two sides. Friday night was the Crows and the Cats. The Cats won by 19 points, stamping that they are going to really want to look to return to finals this year. And the Crows on their home deck was a disappointing performance. There were a couple of moments where the Crows did look good, but overall the Cats really did own most of the game and never looked like losing it. First game Saturday, North Melbourne and Fremantle. North Melbourne showed some signs early on in the game, but couldn't quite play it out as Fremantle were too strong in the end. Hawthorn were quite disappointing against Melbourne in their 55-point loss to the Demons, 38-93. The Hawks played a weird brand of footy, and the Demons was able to easily beat them. Saturday night was a high-scoring shootout at the SCG. Sydney 131 defeated Essendon 101 by 30 points. This one was a pretty good game, and it was definitely fierce and fiery as well, but the Swans just too good in the end. Their offense was good, and their defense holding Essendon to 101 points in a high-scoring game was pretty good, and Essendon just let too many scores through. The Dogs defeated the Suns by 48 points to get their first win of the year, and the Suns, they record their first loss. Port Adelaide defeated Richmond by 30 points in Boak's 350th game. Richmond did show some fight and some signs, but again, though, Port Adelaide just too good. And West Coast showed some signs in their 65-point loss to the Giants, but in the end, the Orange Tsunami of Jedi West was just too good, too strong, and the Blues and the Lions had their byes in round 2. Round 3 preview, that start Thursday night footy, Brisbane and Collingwood at the Gabba. Easter Thursday night game, if you don't mind, at the Gabba for the Lions and the Pies. And both these two sides desperately need a win as they are winless so far heading into the year. Big game for these two sides because if Collingwood go on 4, you wouldn't even think about it. And in Gallagher, they've got the Hawks, which will probably be a fiery contest, and the Hawks will be looking to play their best. But Collingwood going on 4, it is very, very, very tough from there to finish inside the top 4, let alone the top 8. And Brisbane, well, they're going to be looking for a better performance on their home deck of the Gabba, as they just simply didn't bring it against the Blues. They played so well early, but then just choked it so hard, so late. So it's going to be a big game for them as well in front of their home fans. I think Brisbane will be too good, though, by 21 points, but I think this will be a fiery clash, and I wouldn't be surprised if Collingwood really did come out and play their best in this grand final rematch. Friday, Good Friday, super clash between North Melbourne and Carlton at Marvel Stadium. Big game for these two sides as well. Carlton had the bye last week, but they were looking good and sharp before then. And North, they've definitely showed some signs over the first couple of weeks. Just haven't quite been able to carry out games. And Carlton, apart from the Giants, probably the best opponent they've played. But this one is a home venue, and it's all for a great cause. But the Giants, they hung in there. Fremantle, they hung in there. And I'd be expecting they'll hang in here against the Blues as well. But their defence is a problem against a really good Carlton forward line, which contains names like Kerno and Mackay, just to say the least, and no real big defensive names for North. It could be a day out for Carlton, and they could get a score kicked on them. But out of the midfield, though, they could look okay. I think the Blues win this game by 43 points, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Friday night, Fremantle and Adelaide in the West at Optus Stadium. The Crows do not have a great record on the road, and Fremantle are pretty good at home. The Crows last week were disappointing against the Cats, and Fremantle, they were disappointing at times against North, but in the end managed to get the job done, get the 4 points, and that is all you need in a game of footy. Now, Fremantle, they're good at Optus Stadium, and the Crows, as I said, aren't good on the road. So I think Fremantle will win this game. Wouldn't be surprised if the Crows were to win it, but I do think it is quite hard, and the Crows could definitely be falling out of touch very soon. They've got Melbourne and Carlton to come. They could be, especially if they drop this game, 0-5, which would not be a great start to their year. But I do think Fremantle will win this game by 7 points. I think it'll be a good game, but Fremantle in the West, I do think they'll just be too strong at the end of the day. Essendon and St Kilda is the first game on Saturday at Marvel Stadium. Essendon, they were pretty good offensively last week, but not so great defensively, coughing up 131 points at an SCG, which is normally quite a lower scoring venue. They still did manage to score 101 of their own, though. And while St Kilda, they looked in good all-round shape last week against Collingwood, but there were a few injuries out of the game. I do think it'll be a relatively close game. I think Essendon will definitely contend pretty well in this one, and I think it'll be high scoring. Just think that these two sides will want to play offensively, which Essendon will be quite happy for that if that is the case. I think the Bombers will lose, though, by 17 points. I think the Saints will just be a little bit too strong, but I do think that Essendon will contend and fight. I think they'll contend and fight in most of their games this year, but no, I do just think that St Kilda will just be too strong in this one. Port Adelaide and Melbourne on the Saturday night is a Saturday night game this round at the Adelaide Oval. Now, of course, this is probably going to be one of the biggest games of the round. The Demons, they probably might be missing a little bit of their back line, but Port Adelaide last week against Richmond celebrated Boak's 350th game in style, and we'll be looking to return home to the Adelaide Oval and play pretty well against the Demons, who, well, the Demons, look, their forward line has been a little bit hit and miss at times throughout the past few years. If they can get that right, then they're not far away from being a really good team, that really destructible team that's quite hard to beat. And if they do get it, if Port's backline doesn't quite hold up, which they have, they did leak 92 against Richmond last week in a high scoring game. So if Melbourne can get that connection right, then it'll be amazing how far they can go. I think Port Adelaide will win this game. I think they'll be a little bit too good at the Adelaide Oval, and I do think they'll win the midfield battle. I think they'll win by 19 points. I think it'll be a really good game though, and Port might just blitz away at the end, but this one is a real 50-50. Melbourne could definitely come out and win. First game Sunday on Easter Day is going to be the Dogs and the Eagles at Marvel Stadium. West Coast, they have showed signs in their first two games against Port Adelaide and against the Giants. They've shown a few little glimpses of what they can do, and I do think that they'll be able to put a bit of a score on the Western Bulldogs this week because the Dogs, their backline isn't as brilliant as some others in the league. But the Dogs, though, on the other hand, their offense is really good. They've got big names in the forward line. Ugle-Hagan, they've got Waitman, they've got Norton. They've got plenty of different names that can kick goals. So I think it'll be a high-scoring game, this one, between the Dogs and the Eagles. I think the Dogs will win by 49 points. But I do think this will be West Coast's best performance of the year so far, where they'll show a few more signs, play better footy, but I do think the Dogs will be just too strong. Final game on Easter Day is going to be Richmond and the Swans at the MCG. And Richmond can be a tough one to get a little read on. They have played pretty well in their last two games. If you count our opening round against Gold Coast where they didn't play well, they played very well against Carlton and then relatively well against the Power last week. The Swans, though, they are a brilliant side at the moment. They're the second best team in the competition at the moment. They haven't lost a game. I don't think they'll be losing this one. I think they'll be too strong and win by 34 points. But I do think Richmond will show signs, but I do just think Sydney will just be too strong in the end. And Easter Monday, of course, Hawthorn and Geelong at the MCG. This is going to be another big game. The Hawks got to play better footy than they did last week. That is very simple. If they want to win footy, you can't win it by taking 50 uncontested marks in your back line. So they got to play a fast brand of footy. That's what the game is about nowadays. And Geelong, really good last week against Adelaide. And Tom Stewart, gosh, he is amazing. He knows how to own that back line. You don't want to kick it to him. So the Hawks will definitely not want to be doing that. But Geelong, like every area of the ground, the midfield looks good, the defence looks good, and the forward line looks good. They are going to be hard to beat against a relatively inexperienced Hawthorn side here. I think the Hawks will hang around for most of the game, play way better footy, but I do think the Cats will win this game by 35 points. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks came out and sent a message to the competition with an upset here, but I do think the Cats will be too strong by 35 points. Gold Coast and Jedi West have their byes this week, so we'll go over my tips. Brisbane, Carlton, Fremantle, St Kilda, Port Adelaide, the Western Bulldogs, Sydney, and Geelong. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys and never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much. Goodbye everyone. Flame Footy out.